Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves.
How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And it is Tuesday. That means it's time to take a look at all of these graphic novels coming out from Marvel Comics this week. So, stay tuned. And welcome back, everybody. Before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these books. All of these books are due out in the direct market and book market on February 6th or 7th, depending on where you get your books. So we have a brand new epic collection, the ending of an era, and we've got all new series, including a retro series, which I've been enjoying. These little retro series where they have like a classic writer go back and write stories taking place during a specific era of these characters. But this one is really interesting because, well, I'll talk about it when I get there. As always, in the description of the video, I'll leave timestamps so you can jump around in case you're only interested in a book or two, or in case you don't want any kind of spoilers. I usually stay away from spoilers, but if I have any, I'll let you know ahead of time before going to spoiler territory. Alright, we got a lot to talk about, including 2 symbiote books. So let's start with one of those. Let's talk about the Cult of Carnage Misery. So here we have Cult of Carnage Misery, and it's not a volume 1, it's just collecting a mini-series. Now, if you haven't read the new Venom series, or the new Red Goblin series, or caught up with Carnage and what's going on with the symbiotes, this, in the first few pages, is going to spoil who the character of Misery is. Now, if you're a big fan of symbiotes, well, maybe jump to the next book, unless you don't care about spoilers. But if you're here for spoilers, or just to kind of give you the big pitch of this, without going into a deep spoiler dive, well, let's keep watching then. Okay, so Cult of Carnage Misery. Misery is the new symbiote. And who exactly is she? But before I talk about that, let's talk about the creators. Xavier Persarda and Francesco Mortarino are the main writer and penciler for this book. And it collects all 5 issues of the miniseries Cult of Carnage Misery, $17.99, and it has 120 pages. So it starts off with Liz Allen, that's right. Young lady that has been a part of the Spider-Lore for decades. And she is having flashbacks of her relationship with Harry Osborn, and the good times, the bad times, and everything that's happened in her life and Harry's life. And eventually what ends up happening is she ends up getting a phone call from a hidden compartment that Harry kept from her in her own house. And she discovers that there's more to her house than meets the eye. Apparently, Harry had all this extra Green Goblin stuff in this in her own house. So what she ends up doing is she ends up calling Spearhead and the guardsmen to come in here and take out this stuff. Now, Normie is like, hey, I think this stuff belongs to my dad. I don't think they should be taking it. And this is, of course, during the time when she's running a lot of the things that are happening at Alchemex that, of course, are doing experiments. And somebody's keeping an eye on her, and we'll find out here in a little bit who exactly that is. Now, she is taking care of not just Normie, but also this young character right here. And that is Stanley. It's her other kid. And Normie is, well, actually, it doesn't go into the whole story here of Normie and his current status quo in the world of Spider-Man. But I think it's important to read at least the first few issues, at least the first 2 volumes of Venom before going into this, because this is kind of taking place around that time in this first few Ram V and Al Ewing issues of Venom. Now, as we find out, in Alchemex, they seem to have a lot of symbiotes. And that's just something that the Marvel Universe does from time to time. They kind of shoehorn a bunch of symbiotes and people experimenting on them all the time. No matter in the 90s when we had all the Venom symbiotes split out of him. But here, what they're doing, though, is something a little bit different. Something that we've heard about. They're taking the Carnage symbiote, the strain of the Carnage symbiote, and putting it into a chimpanzee. This is Grace. And what else they're doing is they're taking the anti-venom strain and mixing the two together so it's constantly at a battle, constantly trying to eat each other, but also regenerate, and trying to see what kind of new things they come up with. Now, little does she know that one of the guardsmen that ends up working for Alchemex, this guy named Corwin Jones, he is actually working for somebody else. He's been hired to take out some of these symbiotes, these strains, out of Alchemex. So, I kind of like the way he does it. He just doesn't try to hide his thoughts. This is Liz having a date with her previous boyfriend of hers that she had an interest in before Harry. And yeah, this guy right here, Corwin, just comes right in wearing a guardsman helmet and pieces of it, and just starts attacking Alchemex. And of course, Spearhead and the rest of the guardsmen get involved, and he just starts taking them all out. And what he wants is the strains. So what ends up happening is that Liz gets harmed, and that strain that they've been putting into Grace, the chimpanzee, of the anti-venom and Carnage symbiote, eventually takes over her. And she keeps having flashbacks, and the reason that she takes the name Misery has something to do with her flashbacks with Harry Osborn. But this is where she ends up learning how to use the powers, what the limitations are to the powers, and it's really all thanks to Grace, because Grace has already been infected with the anti-venom and the Carnage symbiote, that they kind of test each other's boundaries and what they're able to do. So we end up finding out exactly where Corwin was taking those symbiote strains and who wants them and why. And all I can say is it causes madness. Now, there's no extras in the back. The variant covers are sometimes collected in thumbnail size on the opposite side of the standard edition cover. 120 pages, $17.99. And that is Cult of Carnage, Misery. Next up is Magneto. Magneto was right. And here we have him divided in two. Of course, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants years, and then the years when he's wearing that particular outfit when he took over the school of gifted youngsters and became the headmaster of the Xavier School. So this is a flashback series. It is written by J.M. DeMatteis, which I find so interesting. Art by Todd Knox, so I love the fact that he's drawing these particular issues. I've always been a big fan of his artwork ever since Newman, and then not Newman, the guy from Seinfeld, but Newman. It was Extreme's studio series, and of course Young Justice. I've always been fond of the way that he draws a young cast, so New Mutants fits right in. The thing that I wonder about is how J.M. DeMatteis got talked into doing this project, because as far as I know, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he's ever written the character of Magneto. And a lot of these New Mutants, I don't think he's written either, with the exception of maybe like Wolfsbane, because she was in the pages of his X-Factor run during that era. So it's really interesting that this wasn't written by somebody like Louis Simonson or Chris Claremont, but J.M. DeMatteis. Maybe because he does such a really good job at like breaking down a villain and showing you how to make how they tick. So maybe that's why he took it. Okay, so what exactly is happening through these 4 issues? So this is a 4-issue miniseries. Again, it's a throwback retro series that takes place when Professor X went to space, have adventures with Lilandra, and made Magneto, the master of magnetism, the new headmaster of the school. So the New Mutants are his students. Well, in here, we have them. First of all, I love the way Todd Knox draws these characters. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the way that Brett Blevins mixed with like Arthur Adams. I don't know. It's just some innocence and purity to this art. So Magneto's trying to teach him lessons by putting them in danger room sequences. He doesn't feel connected to any of them. Like, for example, Rain right here, Wolfsbane, wants to know a little bit more about his past and what exactly this book Professor X has. So he doesn't want to talk about his past because he doesn't feel any kind of connection to his students. You know, because keep in mind, this is a character that was I hate to say this, a one-dimensional villain up until a certain point in Uncanny X-Men. And I think most of us would agree that point was when Chris Claremont took over the book. And the big defining moments were the Magneto story from issue 150 that showed the multi-layered character that he is. Well, this is all about his students getting attacked and the appearance of this young lady named Array, I think is how, maybe Arai. Anyway, this young lady right here that's wearing a Magneto-inspired costume and is attacking her students, but she ends up kidnapping him. And this whole series is about how he's been kidnapped away from the school and how this young lady and the Sisterhood of Evil Mutants wants to bring him back to the evil side. That, you know, he's danced with the angels long enough, it's time to come back and show his true roots, what he's about. And they are going to go to whatever means necessary, including attacking his new students. So it's kind of a crisis of conscience, if you will. Like, he has to decide whether to stick with the plan that Professor X left him with, like, hey, you're a good guy now, I know it's in your heart, Eric, or go back to the ways that he used to be. And it's so easy to go back to his ways. Now, what exactly is this young lady doing wearing this outfit? Is she any kind of relation to Magneto? I guess that tends to be a thing with Polaris and Scarlet Witch, so why am I even asking that question? But maybe she is, maybe she isn't. But you can find out for yourself exactly how it's all connected, and then how it's quickly swept under the rug as if these events didn't happen. But it was a fun series. I really enjoyed it. And the Todd Knock artwork, my goodness, so good. So good. Makes me wish he was drawing one of the new, whenever X-Men is relaunched, like one of the young kids series, whether it's Gen X or the new mutants, whatever it is. 112 pages, $15.99. In the back, we have some variant covers, whether in full splash pages. This is a really interesting one, because these are like the villains from the cartoon versions of the villains. And then some cover sketches there. Venom, Volume 5, Predestination. So this is the latest run from Al Ewing and Torunn Grønbekk. So the run that started off with this series right here, the Recursion, which was written by Ramby and Al Ewing. But now it's kind of become the Al Ewing show. But he's bringing along Torunn Grønbekk to kind of set up maybe some of the things she's going to do later on. So we start off with the Free Comic Book Day 2021 right here. This particular story that's by Al Ewing and Cafu. Al Ewing writing issues 22, 24 through 25. And then Torunn Grønbekk writing issue 23. Ramon Box being the main artist on the book. And this collecting issues of the Free Comic Book Day 2021, Spider-Man and Venom, and then Venom 22 through 25. $17.99, 136 pages. And we are introduced, or rather reintroduced, to this character named Flexo from the Golden Age era of Marvel Comics. What exactly does he have to do with Bedlam or Venom or any of the symbiotes? Could he himself be a symbiote? And we do get some interesting stories here where Flexo ends up meeting Venom, but as we all know by now, because we are talking about Volume 5, this Venom in present day is not Eddie Brock, but instead it's Dylan, his son, because people believe that Eddie Brock is dead. However, Eddie Brock is kind of like traveling through time and becoming something new. We have this issue right here. This is issue number 24, or no, I'm sorry, 23. This is the one that's written by Torunn Grønbekk. And oh, this is the Ken Lashley issue. I love Ken Lashley. We have the new Toxin team up with the new Venom. This is a really interesting dynamic because Toxin isn't... or the new Toxin is just so different than the original Toxin. And finally, we get some Eddie Brock story here, where we see him and Dr. Doom have some dinner. So Eddie Brock arrives at Latveria, and he still has control over the Bedlam symbiote. And Bedlam, I don't know, he's growing on me. He's kind of badass the way he looks and he's designed. And I love this right here. His particular dinner with Dr. Doom is really interesting because Dr. Doom mentions, hey, you know, we have to set our past altercations aside so we can talk business. And the altercations he's talking about is the stuff in the Retcon series, the Lethal Protector 2. That was the one that was written by David Michelinie. So I love the fact that Al Ewing, man, the guy, he's really growing as one of these well-read, well-known, and absorbed just database of information for comic books. It's really cool to see him just throw all these little stories and connect them to past stories like he did in the previous volume with Excalibur. But what exactly does Doctor Doom want with the symbiote? Well, you can find that part out for yourself, but let's just say they go on a time-traveling adventure. They go places that, you kind of seen before in the Marvel Universe, and places that we've visited in the past, and characters that may want to put a stop to that. But that's all I will say about this series. This has been such a fun series, and if you haven't been reading it, all the way in the back are the variant covers and thumbnail size. Lots of variant covers. If you haven't been reading it, give it some time. It wasn't until volume 1 and 2 I found really, really boring, especially coming off of the Donny Cates Venom, which was just so adrenaline driven. Those issues just kind of put me to sleep. I'm like, I don't know where Venom is. Is he in heaven? Where's Eddie Brock? What is happening? It wasn't until volume 3, oh my gosh, that it changed. By the time you get to volume 4, it becomes something different. It kind of becomes what Al Ewing did in the pages of Immortal Hulk. And I hate to hype something up that big, but I've really felt like it was that strong of an impact. But it's been a hell of a series so far. So why isn't it my pick of the week? And it is that time of the video where we check out the spines and also remind people to smash that like button, please. It goes a long way for us here on the channel. Very small thing you can do. Alright, let's continue the overview. I realized too late that when I asked the question, why isn't it my pick of the week, I went straight to the spines and I didn't get a chance to answer why not. Well, I like leaving people hanging, that's why. Because this is my pick of the week. Oh my gosh, this series is so good. This is Scarlet Witch by Steve Orlando, Volume 2, Magnum Opus. And it's a continuation of the first volume, which is right here, The Last Store, which introduced the concept of Wanda. By the way, if you haven't read The Last Store, I'm going to be talking about some minor spoilers. Kind of like the pitch is what I'm going to do, but I don't want to go too much into the deep spoilers territory as to why things are going on or how they played out. So just in case, minor spoilers. All right, so The Last Store. The Last Store sees us with Wanda opening up an emporium. And in this emporium, she's selling herbs, spices, and candles, but also has a door. And this door is this interdimensional door that anyone seeking shelter or anyone that's in trouble and needing help will open it up and come to her. And it's such a fascinating concept. I absolutely love it because it's a character that's been so... I hate to say, Wanda and Polaris are like the two characters in the Marvel Universe that when the wrong writer comes along, they just don't know what to do with them, so they make them crazy. And to me, that's just ridiculous. Like, especially if you've been reading a lot of the history of these characters. It's kind of like when a writer comes in and does something horrible to Cyclops. A lot of us are so affected by it that, we consider Cyclops a prick, no matter what other writer needs to fix him. But no, if the right author comes in, they can make the character lovable again. They can make the character a complete badass again and make you forget all the things that had happened previously when a writer didn't know what to do with a character. There's other characters, of course, not just Wanda and Polaris, but they are fresh on my mind because I just read a bunch of X-Men titles. So what Steve Orlando is doing here is giving her a redemption story arc. We've seen that in the pages of James Robinson's Scarlet Witch, but this one's a little bit different because now it's like people are coming to her for help, and I love that. So the first issue that's collected in here, so this collects issues 6 through 10, is this particular character named Ganymede. She is the last survivor of the Arcus Sisterhood, and it's been known throughout the galaxy that there's been this big genocide that has been caused by the Skrull Empire. So this immediately affects Scarlet Witch, because her son Wiccan is married to the Emperor of the Skrull and Kree Empire. So she says, okay, I gotta help you out. So it kind of puts her at odds. Like, what exactly does Wanda do here? Does she do the right thing because she swore to help these people out no matter who comes through the door? Or does she side with her son? I thought this was such a great issue right here. Just kind of showcasing exactly the beauty and the complexity of Scarlet Witch and what makes her such an awesome character. The next issue has a return of a character right here, this guy with silver hair. Now, do you need to have been keeping up with the pages of Krakoa, what's going on, and the whole Fall of X? It doesn't hurt, but honestly, it does such a good job of letting you know what's happening in those pages that you don't really need to read everything going on in those pages. Just know that some mutants have kind of turned away from Krakoa because of everything that is going on over there since the last Hellfire Gala. Alright, and then we get the Emerald City that appears out of nowhere. One of my favorite issues right here. Beautiful, beautiful covers by Russell Dauterman, by the way. And I hate when they put characters together for absolutely no reason. It almost feels forced. Like when it's a wedding. I mean, this happened all the way back in the 60s with the Silver Age, right? You would see characters get married or you see characters get together, and there really wasn't a build-up. And this felt like that. I was like, oh, come on, Steve Orlando, you're doing such a good job. And I see the cover, and I'm like, oh, it's WandaVision and the Loki TV series. Obviously, it's for that reason. But once I read it, it made me realize how alike Wanda and Loki are. How they're just these two wandering souls, rejected by their own siblings, rejected by their parents. Damn, I felt like an idiot for thinking, judging a book by its cover. Hey, even though it's a beautiful cover by Russell Dauterman, this is such an awesome issue. It's Loki's cousin that comes through the door that needs some help, and the help leads her to Loki, and the two get connected. Now, does it end up in wedding bells or anything like that? Not really. Now, I forgot to mention that there's something big happening throughout the issues. Like, they're standalone issues, because somebody new is always coming through the door. But there's this stone that can take away her magic. And then we have the Hex Finder out there who's trying to get revenge on her. And of course, I did not mention Darcy. Oh, there's a backup story going on through these issues too. A couple of issues that showcase her and how she deals with her Strange Academy students because she's a teacher. But a lot of fun collecting issues 6 through 10. In the back, you have the variant covers. And these are in thumbnail size, but some of the variant covers are on the opposite side of the standard edition covers. 120 pages, $17.99. And if you've not read that, do yourself a favor and read that. But definitely read this. It's such a great series. Last but certainly not least is Twilight's Last Gleaming, otherwise known as Captain America Epic Collection Volume 21. Mark Gruenwald's last few issues on Captain America. Now, why didn't I pick this one as my seal of approval? Why didn't this get my pick of the week? Well, because I've read it. I love Mark Gruenwald's run on Captain America. It's my favorite Captain America run. But I also have to keep it real. The last year, it wasn't the ups and downs, right? Ups and downs, but it just wasn't my favorite era. I was ready for a change, and honestly, the way he was writing the character, he was ready for a change. This contains Captain America 431 to 443, the Taking Aim crossover, so Avengers 386 through 388 is collected in here. Tells us Suspense number 1, which is this awesome story by James Robinson. It's all painted by Colin McNeil. This is just a one-shot, and then material from Captain America Collector's Preview. The book has 480 pages and retails for $44.99. So we start off with a fight between Badrick and Captain America. We have a new nemesis is in charge of this group. This creepy guy right here. This is Stein. And Stein kind of reminds me of the villain in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Stein is in charge of this group named Dante, who's a terrorist organization. And it's up to Captain America and old Shellhead here to team up and take down Dante and its leader. Now, the main story arc that we're seeing here, though, is the remaining issues of the Fighting Chance that started in volume number 20. So Fighting Chance is Captain America. His body is finally giving into the super soldier serum. The super soldier serum is going out and it's killing his body. He doesn't know how much time he's got to live. He's teaming up with Diamondback. We're introduced to a couple new characters here. We're introduced to the character of Free Spirit, who will be kind of like his sidekick, and Jack Flag, who I ended up loving because of Guardians of the Galaxy by DNA. And going back and rereading his stories here, I was like, oh, actually, he kind of is a little bit like that still. So Free Spirit is this young girl who decided to be part of this experimental program. This is Nancy. And she ends up getting extra strength and agility and puts on a costume and just totally worships the ground that Captain America just walks on. We have the whole Baron Zemo story arc here with the Zemo kids fighting against Captain America, who's now wearing more of an armor to kind of keep his body contained and walking around, and Diamondback. But they're not the only villains that show up through here, because we also have the Serpent Society, and this is the introduction of Jack Flag. Look at the guy's got a boombox up to his ear. That's so awesome. He's kind of a, yeah, he loves Captain America, loves America, and he does show up with a boombox. But the boombox got secrets of its own and helps take down the Serpent Society. Even though Captain America already had a guy on the inside of the Serpent Society playing a double agent. But that's Cobra and the rest of the Serpent Society. And Dave Hoover supplying most of the artwork through these pages. He's the artist that kind of wrapped up the Captain America run with Mark Gruenwald. This is an anniversary issue. And more, we see Captain America just, his body just falling apart. So he needs bigger and badder costumes. This is also the 90s. So this is an era when everything was extreme. And I don't mean just Rob Liefeld's Extreme Studios. I mean Extreme Justice League. Everybody had like a super armored suit. It was the cool, badass thing to do. And I don't know by this point if it was Mark Gruenwald's decision to give Captain America this suit that he needed to survive, or if it was one of the editors that just saw, hey, kids really like battle armor. Let's give them battle armor. And two new sidekicks, Free Spirit and Jack Flag. Now, there is a crossover, as I mentioned here, the Taking Aim crossover that kicks off with this issue of Captain America with the fill-in artist, Angel Medina. Love his art. I'm sorry, this is fill-in art on Avengers, because Mike Deodato Jr. It's interesting, yeah. They chose a Avengers cover for this epic collection. It's not a Captain America cover. But Mike Deodato Jr. was the ongoing artist on Avengers, but the fill-in art here is by Angel Medina. Big fan of his artwork since the days of the Warlock and the Infinity Watch. And then, of course, he went over to do Spawn. And by now, you could probably see that McFarlane flair to the McFarlane notice, and he was like, I want that guy. But this is the big return of AIM, including the character of MODOK, taking down the Avengers and taking down Captain America. Suprema shows up through here. As well as, yeah, this is what I meant. Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Avengers, issue 387. That's the cover. That's interesting that they went with. It is awesome. I don't care what anybody says. There are people that hate the 90s, but I loved it. I know it's obviously a Jim Lee, like a Jim Lee clone. But Mike Deodato Jr., that's how they started. His whole studio started like a Jim Lee clone. And eventually a lot of those guys went on to develop their own styles. Not just Mike Deodato, but also like Ed Benes. And there's MODOK right there. Falcon's new outfit. Everybody's got a new outfit. And then the ending. The ending is dedicated to Mark Gruenwald's mom. Or he dedicates the ending to his mom. And we're left with the question, what's happened to Captain America? Where is he? Well, you can find out in volume 23, Man Without Country, when Mark Gruenwald takes over the book. In the back, we do have this right here. This is the Captain America Collector's Preview showing... I forgot about this foil cover. Boy, they were trying to cable everybody up back then. This shows interviews and where they're going to go with Captain America. There's a Mark Gruenwald. Actually, there is a Mark Gruenwald, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, article right here. And then talking to other creators, the Captain America movie, the video game. And then the extras in the back are the year in review pinup right there. The cover art by Colin McNeil for that Tales of Suspense. The back cover, the trade paperback covers, and original art there by Dave Hoover. And Mark Grunwald's afterwards from issue 443. I'm sorry, this is 442, and then this is from 443. So 10 years after writing Captain America, Mark ends up leaving the book, and then you have an afterword here by Ralph Macchio, who, of course, talks about mortality and talks about his friend Mark Grunwald and the legend that he was. And he is missed. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And those were all the books coming out February 6th or 7th, depending on where you get your comics. So let me know in the comments down below which books you're picking up, which series you've been enjoying, whether you get them in single issues or you get them in collected editions. And if you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.